So with the y'all's average of lifted y'all to number 2 in the country this week, what does that mean to you at this point? Obviously, it's good. Your average has gone above 197. I'm sure you'll want to do better. Probably feel you can do better, and you've talked about not peaking too early. So what does it mean at this point in the season to have that average and that ranking?
It just really just means that through 3 meets we're the number 2 team in the country, and we don't put a whole lot more on it than that. I want the kids to know it because I want them to be able to begin. To me, winning a championship, there's 2 sides to chasing these things, and one is the emotional side, which we all have, and we all want to win. And we all have that desire to do well, but then you've got to be able to back that up and give it a foundation to stand on. That emotion alone is not going to do anything, or that sentiment. So the rational part and the logical part and the tangible parts are the things that you can measure. And so we don't talk a lot about rankings. We probably mention it, once or twice in a given year, but I do like that they're aware of it, that they know, where they stand in comparison to other teams, and it points out that they're doing well, but that they need to continue to do better, and the job's not done. We haven't done anything yet. The job's not done.
It looks like just from early on, and again, as you said, it's early.
Mm-hmm.
There's a hierarchy. It looks like in the conference. You in Florida, and a lot of other teams. Arkansas had a great score this weekend. Obviously, they did better than what they did against you both times. But and then you got that meet coming up. But you got this road meet coming up first, and obviously the conference regular season chase is very important. So how do you factor all that in?
In this environment, Scott, we really try to stay day to day as much as we possibly can, because things can flip on a dime in a moment's notice. Really haven't looked too far down the line. Primary focus right now is trying to figure out what our lineups will look like for Auburn. What's the best decisions to make with regard to the overall health of our team, but at the same time trying to keep our momentum where it needs to be and continue to take steps forward and not repeat mistakes that we make. If we make mistakes, I'd like them to be different ones than the ones that we've already seen. And so that's the primary focus. It's really just about maintaining a very aggressive mindset and moving forward and being extremely disciplined. I think in this environment, it's easy. Things are going along pretty well, and if you're not careful, you can get complacent with things, so really it's just kind of the overall message is just let's keep our nose to the grindstone and not get too far ahead of us and not look side to side a whole lot, and just focus on the 5 minutes in front of our face and get better.
Yeah, I have a quick question. So some of the girls have just mentioned how they worked so hard for their team and how they just want to make one another proud. And just watching the other night, you could just see how close everyone is on the team. So what do you do to kind of maintain unity and that team mentality among everyone?
Well, when I got here 8 years ago, we really made a concerted effort to make our team culture and our chemistry a big priority. And if that means taking time away from being in the gym to hash out issues or to talk about subjects that need to be discussed, we're going to do that. One of our biggest kind of core values around here is communication, and we try to create avenues for each one of them to learn about each other and to have the ability to communicate even when the subject matter might be difficult. And it's something that we work hard on, and I think it's evident. I'm glad that you see that, because I think we hear it from recruits and we hear it from people around. Not as much this year because we're trying so hard on the floor to stay separated from everybody, and but they naturally want to be with each other, and that's a great testament to their buy-in to what we're trying to do. We're big on communication and respect, and it's hard to respect people that you don't know. And so we work hard at getting to know one another, and understanding the differences that they have, understanding the similarities that they have, and really investing in each other and getting to know each other at a level that I'm not sure a lot of teams or coaches are willing to spend the time that we do on that.
Coach, a follow-up on that. Dee Dee wasn't a fan of texting. She said that things could get lost in translation with tone and everything. You feel that way too, or?
Yeah. I mean, there's certainly a role for it, and we use GroupMe and things to get more notification things. But if there's an issue or anything that really needs any kind of discussion or has any gravity to it at all, then we try to do that face to face and in person in the gym. And again, it's about, I think from a leadership perspective, it's up to us as coaches, and then it's up to the leadership on the team to provide avenues for communication, to provide channels that allow every person to have a voice and to speak. No matter how redundant it feels from times when we do our team meetings, we do some things that kind of force people to speak up and give us their thoughts. So it's something that we just are pretty diligent about, and it seems to have helped us. And I that's one of the biggest assets we've had is our culture within our team. I've been a part of teams that should have won and did not, if you just looked at them on paper. And I've been a part of teams that on paper you might not have thought they could have won, and they did. And the biggest difference has been that culture and that investment in one another and how together they are. And that sounds weird in a sport that's so individual in its nature, but coaches talk about chemistry and it's a catchphrase and it's all that. There is no magic pill that creates it, but when you have it and when you don't. And I'm telling you, the teams that do the best, it's not a guarantee, but you certainly increase your odds when you spend time developing that part of your program rather than just the X's and O's and the technique and all those things.
Hey Jay,
Hey.
Can you tell me how this season has differed without Dee Dee? Has this season been more difficult without her?
I would say it's more difficult just because of the circumstance that the whole world finds itself in, and the protocols and the policies and the layers of stuff that we have to contend with. But it's not that she's not around. We still see her. She comes around. She's always available to me if I ever need her for anything. I wouldn't say it's been more difficult. The bulk of our staff remained intact, and we brought back a familiar face who already knew the system, and so I don't think it's been more difficult as a result of that. I think it's just been a difficult year for everybody right now, and Dee Dee is still a resource that we can rely on when we need her.
Jay, you know anything at this point about Kaya and how many events she might be available in?
Well, she felt better yesterday, and she wanted to do more yesterday than I let her. I'm just trying to be prudent, in terms of how quickly we get her going. My guess is that we'll see her in at least one more this weekend. We'll probably, if I was making a decision today, it would probably be that we'll vault her and do bars, but not beam and floor. Beam and floor really irritate it the most. And with that bye week coming up, I want to be able to utilize that as best possible. So I don't want to push it too soon, even if she's feeling pretty good, because in a moment she could go back and then we start riding a roller coaster. I'd like to, kind of get her over this hump and then reintroduce the all-around an event at a time, and hopefully the final stretch of the regular season she's back doing everything every time.
What do y'all usually do on Sunday?
It's lighter. We come in and we kind of troubleshoot where we had problems, work on some basics, work on shaping, work on landings. We don't do full routines anywhere normally, but we kind of pick out where we really need to, what I always call iron out the wrinkles a little bit, and so that's what we did yesterday. She did bars. She did a little bit on beam, but no ballistic punching of the beam or anything. She kind of was just marking her routines, and she ran up and down the runway a few times on vault, but I didn't let her hit the board or anything. I just wanted her to test it out, see how it was feeling, and it felt good. She responded well. She felt good and wanted to do more, and I wouldn't let her. So we'll probably let her do a little more today.
And I was asking Haley, obviously from pretty much the layman's viewpoint, her floor routine looked excellent again. She got a 9.85. She said she was missing some kind of requirement.
Yeah, there's a very ambiguously written thing that college gymnastics in our infinite wisdom added that's at no other level of gymnastics, called up to the level. Now think about that for a second. That routine's probably the most difficult routine in the country, and we're going to take an up to the level deduction. And the reason for that is because within that up to the level, there's now a specific thing that says they must have a series of 3 or more acro elements, meaning, and an acro element can be as simple as a cartwheel. So we've got all two element series in her routine. I knew the rule, but it never read the way. And I'm not the only one. There's other schools around the country that are making the same mistake, and whether they've gotten caught on it yet, I don't know. We knew going in that we probably were going to get hit. We've been working on it for a little over a week now, trying to get it rectified once I got word that the interpretation had come down. But it's not something you're going to change. I got to put a front handspring in her middle pass ahead of her front layout Rudy. And it's not something you change in 2 or 3 days and expect her to go out there. So we knew going in we were running that risk, and it is what it is. I think the one judge did the right thing, though. The one that gave her the 9.9 gave that routine a 10, knowing full well it was a ridiculous thing to have to take an up to the level deduction. So 9.9 was probably the right score. The other one went 9.9 and ended up at a 9.8, so we ended up with a 9.85. So we're going to get it fixed. It'll be fixed for the second half of the season. It's an irritant if you can't hear it in my voice right now, so
No, okay.
it's a little bit irritating. And I made my case to our committee, and most of them agree with me that it was not written well and it wasn't placed the way it should have been in our rules modifications. So it'll trickle down because there's some other routines around the country that we're noticing that are doing it, and we'll get it figured out.
The Haley rule, the Haley Bryant rule.
Yeah.
Because that's what I thought. I said, gosh, it still looks technically, as you said, difficult. And I was watching there was a ESPN retweeted. Was the young lady from UCLA,
Nia Dennis, yeah.
Nia Dennis. And her routine, it's very flashy, but I'm like, it doesn't look more difficult.
No, look, Haley starts and ends with an E, the highest level of difficulty you can. So there's her first pass is an E, her last pass is an E. I don't know if there's anybody else doing that in the country. I can't think of anybody in my career that started and ended with an E. So it's one of, if not the most difficult routines in the nation, and yet because we sometimes as an organization don't always think through the ripple effects of knee-jerk reactions and rule changes that we make, it's on me. I've got to make sure I have the right interpretation. So I'll take full responsibility for it, but I do not agree with the rule, and first chance I get, I'll make that known.
But y'all are going to add a...
Yeah, we're going to add a front handspring. We're adding a front handspring to her middle pass, but I've just got to give her some time because it changes her timing just a little bit in that middle pass, and I don't want to put her... I'd rather go in there and get the 9.85 right now than to risk messing her up and having a fall. So we'll if she's in the lineup until we put that in there, we'll just take it on the chin until we get it. till we do what we need to do. And look, if a 9.85 is the worst score we get, we're okay. You know, I mean, it's just aggravating.
Y'all might not change it for this week.
It just depends because her foot, you know, that toe thing is what slowed us down getting it in there anyway. The thing that happened at Arkansas. So, like yesterday, I couldn't tumble her at all. So we've got to be able to have at least 3 or 4 days where we can consistently train it before I would feel comfortable putting it in the routine.
Looking forward to that open date, aren't you? I can tell that.
Yeah, it'll come at a good time.
I have a question about Reagan. I didn't want to, like I said, hog the microphone, but see if anyone else needs to jump in. Okay. Just on Reagan, obviously she's a senior. She says she's kind of the clown of the team, which I guess is good. I guess you need all kinds.
You do.
To help you have leadership. You know, where does she fit into the senior leadership? And, you guys having her as your beam anchor, she said, you know, she loves me. I guess it's good to have someone who likes beam that much because it's someone who's going to go there and nail it for you because obviously she's been very good at it.
Well, she's you know, I think she understates her role when she says she's the goofy one or whatever it was she said. You'd be hard pressed to find a more gutsy performance than what she put on the floor Friday night. She has chronic back things that are going on. She pulled a hip flexor during warm-ups of the meet, and I considered not letting her go. And she, you know, I said, "Tell me where you're at." And she looked me in the eye. And she goes, "I got it. I'm fine." And but she was in a considerable amount of pain on Friday night with that hip flexor, and she don't want to talk about it. You know, she just. So what she may not say all, you know, she's not the most vocal, you know, of the leadership, but from an example standpoint, yeah, she's fun and she's got that personality and she keeps everybody laughing. But I would say her greatest contribution is just the way she conducts herself, the way she goes about her business. She's a competitor and she's tough and she's just she's a grinder and that kid is pretty special.
And having someone like that who embraces being like that, it's not. I remember I mentioned earlier, McKenna never wanted to do beam, right? She just didn't like that event, and she's great at other things, for example.
Yeah.
But having someone in that spot who really embraces it, what does that mean for you?
Oh, it's tremendous. It's a great feeling to know that you got that. It's like every other event, but beam even more so. You know, when you have that at the end of a beam lineup, and you have, like Christina is also a kid that loves beam. When you kind of bookend your routine, your beam lineup, it's very settling when you know that you've got that level of consistency both at the front and back end of your beam lineup, and it settles everybody's nerves on an event that can be a little bit nerve-wracking.
Speaking of Christina, I noticed she's been kind of nursing an injury from the Arkansas meet. How's she feeling? Are we going to see her Friday night?
Yeah. I think we'll see her at least on beam. The ankle hurts every time she lands one short, and then we're able to get through it in a day or so. Her ankles are just, as I said last week, I think they're just kind of mincemeat at this stage of her career. There's not a lot of stability in her ankles, and so she lands on a softer surface than everybody else during the week, and we do everything we can to protect them. But we don't see her come in short in practice. If I did, I wouldn't be putting her out there. So we've got to figure out what's going on that's causing, that's causing her to. I don't know if it's an adrenaline thing. She says she feels, like her legs are dead right now at the end of her routine, but yet when we do routines in the gym, we don't see that. So I don't know if it's a breathing thing. We've got to kind of help her figure that out because we need her, and we need her to be her, and she certainly doesn't need to be taking those kinds of landings on that ankle. I can't hear you, Scott. I can't hear you, man. I don't know what happened.
I'm sorry.
There you go.
I muted myself.
Okay.
Just the this meet where it fits into the going back on the road, trying to finish the first half of the schedule undefeated. The importance of the regular season meeting. Why is this at 4 o'clock? Do you have any explanation other than I know it's on ESPN2?
That's why. That's it.
Yeah.
TV. We begged for 20 years trying to get live TV, and we've got it. And so one of the things we've got to be willing to do is be a little bit flexible when TV gives us the kind of coverage that we've been getting the last several years. And it's not an all bad thing. You get to the national championship or you go to regionals and you have to start in the afternoon earlier than you normally do. And in some ways it can be a benefit to kind of see what that looks like. And, our logistics for an away meet start very early in the day in terms of the things that we build into our schedule. So having to make that adjustment and build back earlier and get creative on when we're going to eat and all those things, it's part of it's just part of preparing for the postseason. So I don't mind doing it. I'm not sure 4 o'clock on Friday, even though we're on ESPN2, I hope there's a lot of people watching. So maybe when people go to happy hour, we'll be on in all the sports bars if there's any open anywhere in the country.
That's a good question. But yeah, the regular season chase. Obviously, this is a goal. It's a goal every year, and you're trying to getting to the halfway point undefeated before you have a week off, and before you have that big meet with Florida. Is, I'm sure, pretty important.
Yeah, I mean the regular season championship is one of our stated intentions every year, and so it really adds a lot. In a lot of years, you'll hear a lot of schools around the country they don't get hung up on whether they've won or lost, because really we're measured by our scoring patterns and in terms of rankings. But when you're in the SEC and you've got a regular season championship, that's part of the reason we added it, was so that the SEC fan base, it has a difficult time not understanding why winning and losing wouldn't matter in terms of your postseason. So this just gave an extra layer to what we already do, and it created something that was based on win-loss, and I think it's awesome because if you were to ask any of our fans, and probably any of us, would we prefer to get a 197-8 or get the win over a conference foe? If we had to choose, we're going to take the win all day long, and that's. So I think it's a great thing. It's something that we certainly want, but it also is not so. It's not going to define whether or not we make the postseason. You look at Arkansas right now, who's 0-3 on their win-loss record, and yet they're in the top 6 in the country. So it's just people understanding the differences in our sport over others that way is sometimes difficult. And I said, speaking of Arkansas, we started 196.55, and there were people that thought the sky was falling. We had the 7th highest program opening score in the history of the program, and I kept saying then, no, the story is that Arkansas is just better than everybody's used to them being, and that's bearing itself out. They pushed Florida right to the limit again. So there's some good teams in this conference, and winning this conference in the regular season, back to your question, that's an accomplishment. If you can come out on top in terms of win-loss in this conference, that's not easy to do.
Good. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.